Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I am Munib Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. Several people have reportedly been killed in the Afghan city of Asadabad after Taliban fighters allegedly opened fire on them. Witnesses say the group members opened fire on people waving the national flag at an Independence Day rally. However, it is unclear if the casualties resulted from the firing or from the stampede that it triggered. Earlier, President Joe Biden said chaos was unavoidable following the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. Indian troops have martyred a civilian in occupied Jammu and Kashmir's Rajouri district. The youth was targeted during a so-called cordon and search operation in the Thana Mandi area of the district. The occupying forces have killed more than 400 Kashmiris since the illegal revocation of the valley's special status in August 2019. Muslims around the world are observing Ashura, the largest religious mourning. The day marks the martyrdom of Prophet Muhammad's grandson Imam Hussein in the Battle of Kabul, fought in 680 AD in southern Iraq. This year, amid the coronavirus pandemic, the scaled-back gatherings will be held while taking the necessary precautions. Brazil has recorded over 1,000 deaths from the COVID-19 and nearly 42,000 infections overnight. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 74 more people lost their lives to the virus and over 4,300 tested positive in the last 24 hours. Globally, the coronavirus caseload has surpassed 209 million, while the death toll is over 4.39 million. Well, these are the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's have the news in detail now. Several people have reportedly been killed in the Afghan city of Asadabad after Taliban fighters allegedly opened fire on them. The incident comes as the latest in the war-torn country gripped by uncertainty amid the Taliban takeover. This report has details. Witnesses say the group members opened fire on people waving the national flag at an Independence Day rally. However, it is unclear if the casualties resulted from the firing or from the stampede that it triggered. Meanwhile, the Taliban reiterated their commitment to good diplomatic and trade relations with all countries. Earlier, President Joe Biden said chaos was unavoidable following the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. He defended his administration's handling of what many are calling a hasty pullout. The US president said the Taliban are cooperating on letting the Americans get out of the country. He added the US forces will stay in Kabul even beyond the August 31st deadline for a total withdrawal until every American is evacuated. Over in Kabul, former Afghan President Hamid Karzai and Abdullah met with the Pakistani ambassador. They discussed the current situation and the process of comprehensive politics with national and international legitimacy. The situation on Pakistan's side of the Tokhum crossing with Afghanistan remains stable, with no large flow of refugees. Meanwhile, former Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has pledged to return, saying he left to prevent bloodshed. During a live social media broadcast, Ghani said he will continue working to achieve justice for Afghans. Elsewhere, the International Monetary Fund suspended Kabul's access to its resources due to a lack of clarity over the government. Now we have with us Sumaira Khan, our correspondent. She is updating us from the key Afghan city of Jalalabad. Now, Sumaira, please tell us how the daily life is going in the city after the Taliban's takeover.
I'm standing in the center of Jalalabad city. Jalalabad city is less than 75 kilometers away from Pakistan and Afghanistan's central trade transit point, Torkham border. Just a little while ago, I crossed into Afghanistan through Torkham border, and right now where I'm standing, it is the Mukhabirat Chowk of Jalalabad city. Jalalabad city is the provincial capital of Nangarhar province of Afghanistan. As you can see that the city is totally under the surveillance of the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan, which is also known as Taliban. And right now you can see that if we talk about life is coming back to normal gradually. Yesterday, people were telling me shops were not open to a larger volume, but right now the whole market is open. People are coming to their jobs, people are coming back to their businesses, and we also have a security provided by the Taliban right now. So this is the city's center. I'm reporting from Jalalabad. I drove to this place from Torkham border, and right now I'm reporting for Indus News. And this would be indeed a trip that will be full of surprises to everyone, because being a woman, I think I was not. There was a kind of mentality, there was a kind of opinion from the people when I crossed into Afghanistan, and they were of the view that you will not be allowed to report. But right now I'm standing in the center of the city, and you can see that I'm allowed to report from any part of Jalalabad city. Jalalabad city is strategically important to Pakistan, because this was the provincial capital of Nangarhar province, where according to the government of Pakistan, a major terrorist operation and major terrorist activities into Pakistan used to be planned by the TTP and other miscreants groups that were active against Pakistan. So right now you can see that normalcy in Jalalabad city. This is our first point where we are stopping over, but normalcy of life is coming back to the city, and we'll be driving towards Kabul in a while, and we'll be keeping you posted about the entire ambience and the entire situation, what is happening in Afghanistan regarding what is life after the takeover of Taliban. So stay tuned, we'll be bringing more for you.
Right, thank you, Samara Khan, for the latest updates from Afghanistan. Now, for more on this, we are joined by Arshad Yousafzai, a political analyst from Peshawar. All right, now for more on this, we are joined by Arshad Yousafzai, a political analyst from Peshawar. Arshad, thank you very much for joining us. Now, Arshad, President Joe Biden has admitted that chaos was unavoidable following the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Why did Biden stick to his decision of a hasty pullout, despite knowing the aftermath, and whether the U.S. would be blamed for further unrest in Afghanistan?
I think President Biden and the U.S. military had realized that any delays in going out of Afghanistan, any extension in the stay was not going to help anybody. They were aware that the Taliban were getting angry and that they were getting impatient because the deadline was approaching and the U.S. withdrawal was not completed. So to avoid any further issues with the Taliban, as the Taliban had already complained a number of times that the U.S. was violating the Doha Agreement, so the U.S. decided to leave out early without realizing what it could mean for Afghanistan.
Right. Also, Arshad, former Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has pledged to return to his country. Is this possible in the near future, and will the Taliban allow his re-entry?
I don't think President Ghani seriously means this, because he shouldn't have left. He shouldn't have left when the Taliban were giving pardon to everybody. And I've been hearing reports that higher Taliban commanders, even in their speeches in Kabul and elsewhere, while they are addressing these massive jirgas or meetings of the people who are gathered to greet them on their success, have been telling their fighters that even Dostum's money and his life and everything was haram on them, that they should not harm anybody, even Dostum or the toughest opponents. So they would have easily pardoned President Ghani. I don't think that he would return that easily. If he meant to return, if he wanted to come back, the Taliban wouldn't harm him. That's what I believe. But still, it is very uncertain, and it's too early to decide for him to come to Afghanistan. And even his statements wouldn't really bother the Taliban now, because they are in control of everything. And they have successfully managed talking to other leaders who were present in Kabul and who had some reservations, which I believe have been sorted out last evening since Anas Haqqani met them.
Right. Also, tell us, the British Army chief says this time the Taliban could be more reasonable this time. Do you think the Taliban has changed and whether their government will be run differently than the previous one?
It looks like yes, the Taliban have evolved greatly. Their leadership is polite. That they are pardoning people. It has never happened in the history before that they have pardoned or someone has pardoned their worst enemies. They believe, some of them jokingly say that we are going to reset the example of Nelson Mandela, that we are going to forgive everybody and that we are going to move forward relatively easy this time. Although, they have decided about bringing revolutionary changes in many things, there is still uncertainty about how are they going to do it. They are trying to get people who are experienced in many fields and departments, but still they will have to sort out many challenges in future.
Right, absolutely, definitely. Arshad Yousafzai, thank you very much for your time. Now, President Joe Biden has admitted that chaos was unavoidable following the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Why did Biden stick to his decision of the hasty pullout? And we shall update you on this as well, as obviously the situation in Afghanistan is evolving and developing as we speak right now. Now, also, as Afghanistan reels under the Taliban's nascent new rule, the world scrambles to prevent more chaos in the country and the region. This report has details. The Taliban of 2021 brandish themselves as changed Taliban. Many hail this as a silver lining, while some remain skeptical and ramped up diplomacy to counter the global ripple effect. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the future of Afghanistan depends on where the Taliban's policies are heading. In a phone call with Turkish counterpart Mevlut Cavusoglu, Wang said the Taliban's most recent remarks have sent positive signals to the outside world. Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan also welcomed the moderate statements made by the Taliban leaders. He pledged readiness to extend all kinds of cooperation for peace in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Angela Merkel held a phone call with US President Joe Biden and Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev. Merkel and Biden discussed the need for the provision of humanitarian aid for vulnerable Afghans as well as support for neighboring states. While Merkel and Mirziyoyev said the two hold similar stances on the importance of a political solution in Afghanistan. Russian President Vladimir Putin also discussed recent developments in Afghanistan with Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi, while Putin and Tajik President Emomali Rahmon underscored the importance of normalizing the Afghan situation as soon as possible to maintain regional stability. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian said the question of recognizing the Taliban regime is irrelevant at present. Earlier, he said power by force is illegitimate and that the Taliban must prove that they have changed. Meanwhile, European Union Migrant Commissioner Ylva Johansson said the bloc should focus on helping Afghan refugees in the region. She said Afghan asylum seekers must be prevented from undertaking dangerous journeys to reach Europe's external borders. Now, Indian troops have martyred a civilian in the occupied Jammu and Kashmir's Rajouri district. The youth was targeted during a cordon and search operation in the Thana Mandi area of the district. Occupying authorities have also tightened restrictions in different areas of Srinagar amid the occasion of Ashura. Security personnel in strength have been deployed across the valley to prevent people from taking out religious processions. Police detained several mourners at various places in Srinagar after subjecting them to brute force when they tried to take out the processions. Now, in Burkina Faso, at least 47 people have been killed by militants in the northern town of Arbinda. Authorities say the victims included 30 civilians, 14 soldiers and 3 army auxiliaries members. The Ministry of Communication said a joint convoy of civilians and security forces was ambushed in the Sahel region. It said 19 civilians were injured in the attack in the Seno province. The ministry added at least 58 militants were also killed in a combat with government forces. Militants regularly carrying out attacks in northern Burkina Faso as well as in neighboring Mali and Niger. The violence in the country has displaced more than 1 million people in over 2 years. Now, Yemeni army says it has seized strategic military positions from Houthi rebels in the country's Al Jawf governorate. An army's official said the military retook control of a strategic mountain range in the Al Kaif area. He said Houthis suffered great human and material losses. He added the Yemeni forces alongside the Arab coalition are continuing their advance to liberate the rest of the area. Muslims around the world are observing Ashura, the largest religious mourning. The day marks the martyrdom of Prophet Muhammad's grandson Imam Hussein in the Battle of Kabul fought in 680 AD in southern Iraq. This year, amid the coronavirus pandemic, the scaled-back gatherings are being held while taking the necessary precautions. Public mournings and processions are underway in many countries, while Muslims are also keeping the fast. Pakistanis are also observing the occasion with due solemnity. The mourning processions are being taken out in all the cities and towns across the country with special SOPs issued to avoid spread of COVID-19. President Dr. Arif Alvi has urged the nation to rise above hatred, malice and sectarianism in line with the teachings of Imam Hussein. While Prime Minister Imran Khan called for the countrymen to pay tribute to the Imam by supporting the truth and justice. Now, Brazil has recorded over 8,000 daily deaths from the COVID-19 and nearly 42,000 cases. Globally, the coronavirus death toll is over 4.39 million, while the caseload has surpassed 209 million. More details in this report. The governments have been concerned with the high contagious nature of the Delta variant, but to add more to their worries, a British study has found that protection from Pfizer or AstraZeneca vaccines against the variant weakened within 3 months. The US federal authorities say they will require nursing home staff to be vaccinated for participating in the Medicare and Medicaid programs. The health officials also said COVID-19 vaccine booster shots will be made widely available to Americans starting from 20th of September. However, the World Health Organization warned that wealthy countries' booster campaigns will leave poorer people to drown. The WHO's chief renewed call for a moratorium on booster shots to shift supply to countries that do not have access to jabs.
I was stunned by the news that J&J vaccines, fill and finished in South Africa, are leaving the continent and going to Europe, where virtually all adults have been offered vaccines at this point. We urge J&J to urgently prioritize distribution of their vaccines to Africa before considering supplies to rich countries that already have sufficient access.
While in Oceania, the situation is getting grimmer. New Zealand's cases have jumped to 21, but authorities said the virus may not have been in the community for long, as they linked its origin to a recent returnee from Sydney. Meanwhile, Australia has recorded the highest ever number of infections since the start of the pandemic in the latest Delta outbreak.
Every state in Australia will have to come to terms with the fact that when you get to a certain level of vaccination and start opening up, Delta will creep in. We can't pretend that we're going to be 0 cases around Australia of Delta. As the Doherty report says, once you get to 80% double doses and you have to open up, everybody's going to have to learn to live with Delta. Admittedly, in New South Wales, we're learning that earlier than others.
Britain has approved Moderna's vaccine as well for use in children aged 12 to 17, weeks after Pfizer's shot was given the green light. Meanwhile, a new report shows that almost 60% of hospitalized patients with COVID-19 in Israel are fully vaccinated. Facebook says it has removed over 3 dozen pages spreading misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. Meanwhile, Pakistan has registered 74 more fatalities from the COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, bringing the toll to over 24,700. The Health Ministry reported more than 4,300 positive cases overnight, pushing the caseload to over 1.1 million. The ministry said over 999,000 people have recovered so far, while nearly 5,000 are in critical condition. Meanwhile, 44.7 million vaccine doses have been administered so far across the country, while 12 million have been fully vaccinated. More news coming up in this news bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the EU countries have accused Belarus of conducting a direct attack by pushing asylum seekers across its border. Interior ministers of the 27-nation bloc agreed they need to strengthen their external borders in the future. The ministers issued a statement after an emergency meeting to discuss illegal border crossings into Latvia, Lithuania and Poland. They said Belarus is seeking to instrumentalize human beings for political purposes. The statement read, "This aggressive behavior is unacceptable and is aimed at destabilizing and pressuring the European Union." Lithuania said the installation of the fence and a monitoring system could cost more than $585 million, while Poland said it had sent more than 900 troops to help secure its border with Belarus. Now, China says it is willing to jointly promote cooperation with Arab states and seek for development together. President Xi Jinping made the remarks in a congratulatory letter to the 5th China Arab States Expo. The expo opened in Xinjiang City in northwest China's Ningxing-Hui Autonomous Region. In his letter, Xi said the traditional friendship between China and Arab states has strengthened over time. The Chinese president noted Beijing remains the largest trading partner of Arab states. The 5-day expo has attracted exhibitors from over 30 countries and regions and nearly 100 enterprises. Now, in Argentina, thousands of protesters hit the streets of capital to demand work for unemployed and better housing conditions. A group of social organizations affiliated with the left-wing Workers' Party convened and led the march. The leaders noted the demonstrations were carried out across the 22 provinces. The protesters demanded more social programs, public works and assistance at soup kitchens.
Millions of people don't have anything to eat. We are not talking of the near future. We are talking about tomorrow. A lot of families don't know what they'll be eating tomorrow. In the first place, we demand integral assistance and genuine work. Without any work, we won't leave, and we don't see this campaign discussing work. Everything is being discussed except genuine work, which is needed mainly by the youth in Argentina.
Now, Turkey has offered to mediate between Ethiopia and Sudan to resolve border dispute over the Al-Fashaga region. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan offered mediation while addressing a press conference with visiting Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The president said Ankara is ready to make any contribution to an amicable resolution of the border problem. He also said Turkey backs a peaceful resolution for the Tigray conflict in Ethiopia. The Turkish president said Ethiopia has a strategic location and importance in Africa. Erdogan noted all regional countries will be affected by the worsening situation of Tigray. Erdogan and Abiy oversaw the signing of military agreements, including a military financial cooperation deal. China is celebrating the 70th anniversary of the peaceful liberation of Tibet. A grand gathering to mark the event was held in Lhasa, the capital of Tibet Autonomous Region. A senior official of the Chinese Communist Party led a central delegation to attend the celebrations. The delegation presented commemorative plaques and banners to the autonomous region and its institutions. Tibet now has started a new journey of modernization after decades of leapfrog development. In 2019, all registered poor residents in Tibet had shaken off poverty. This marked the elimination of absolute poverty in the region for the first time in history. Now, the death toll from a 7.2 magnitude earthquake that struck Haiti on 14th of August has near 2,200. Flooding and heavy rains have interrupted the search and rescue efforts for the past 2 days. Prime Minister Ariel Henry said the devastating incident has left the nation on its knees. Authorities say at least 600,000 people are in need of assistance and 135,000 families have been displaced. Meanwhile, tremors shook buildings late on Wednesday in the southern city of Les Cayes. A police officer on patrol said there are no immediate reports of further deaths or damage in the region. In the U.S., the Calder fire in Northern California has nearly doubled in size overnight amid the wind and dry conditions. Officials say the blaze has charred over 53,000 acres and is 0% contained. More details in this report. Wildfires driven by the heat waves and accompanied by strong winds are continuously raging across the world. In the United States, at least 50 homes were burnt due to the Caldo fire, while 2 people with serious injuries have been hospitalized. Over in France, a wildfire in the Var region has left 2 people dead while burning over 12,000 acres of land and forcing thousands to flee, while Greek firefighters are struggling to curb a large wildfire that has been raging for the 3rd day in the outskirts of the capital Athens. In Argentina, blazes raging in the Cordoba province has destroyed 40 houses and prompted evacuations. Officials have warned of an extreme risk of fires throughout the province amid the dry and windy weather. Meanwhile, Algeria has accused 2 groups linked to Morocco and Israel of setting the recent wildfires in the country. It had recently designated them as a terrorist organization. Now, China has successfully launched Taihui 2 satellites into the orbit. The pair is developed by the Shanghai Academy of Spaceflight Technology. A Long March 4B carrier rocket blasted off from the Taiyuan Satellite Launch Center in Shaanxi province. The satellites will be mainly used for scientific experiments and research. They will also be used for land and resources surveying and geographic surveying and mapping. The launch marks the 384th flight mission of the Long March rocket series. Now, a Belgian-British pilot has taken to the skies in her quest to become the youngest woman to fly around the world solo. Zara Rutherford departed from Western Belgium in her Shark Ultralight, the world's fastest microlight aircraft. The route will take about 3 months, with stops in 52 countries, where she will stay with local families or in hotels. The 19-year-old seeks to win the title from Shaista Weiss, who became the youngest woman to fly solo around the world at 30.
It's a dream I've had my entire life, to fly in a plane around the world. It's just this crazy idea. I always thought it would be impossible. But then I decided, if I don't tell anyone about it, then it's never going to happen. So I told my parents, and straight away they were like, yes, let's do this. And with the media attention now that I've been getting, I'm hoping to encourage girls and women to hopefully also go into aviation and STEM, so science, technology, engineering and mathematics.
Rutherford's plane was specially fitted out for the journey. It is normally a 2-seater, but an extra fuel tank now takes up one of the seats. This will also help erase any doubt about whether she's flying alone.
Fatigue is definitely a factor, but I'm making sure that I'm always well rested. And then there's some more logistical complications, more weather-wise, that could delay some days, but I'm looking forward to it, and I've got a great team supporting me.
Born to parents who are both pilots, Rutherford will start university next year with the dream of becoming an astronaut. She hopes her voyage will encourage more women to study and spark their interest in aviation. Now, one of the best free runners in the world has performed stunts at the base of the Russian motorsport team Kamaz Master. Details in this report. Evgeny, Arty, Ariane Premid, the new combinations of complicated free running elements at the legendary Kamaz Master base. He played as a model employee who rushes to the workplace, overcoming obstacles on his way. He flew through the air, making impeccable somersaults, while the legendary truck shined behind him. He also pulled off a 2-meter-high double bullet, a 360 front flip on a truck in motion, and a King Kong on unstable tires. Ariane is the bronze medalist of the 2021's Red Bull Art of Motion. When he was 15, he became seriously interested in free running and decided to become a professional athlete. Well, now in Egypt, a ninja lover and trainer has made his childhood dream a reality by turning his farm into a martial arts training zone. More about the enthusiast in this report. Like many other children worldwide, Abdul Qadir Ahmed, who is also known as Abuda Ninja, was a huge fan of the TV show Ninja Turtles as a young boy. Inspired by the 4 ninja brothers in the cartoons, Abuda dreamed of mastering the martial art, so he started playing karate, kung fu and parkour. In 1999, he went to Libya for work, where he met a personal trainer who introduced him to the world of professional ninjutsu. Upon returning to Egypt, he himself started teaching martial arts while making his own swords, which he ensures are used only for training purposes. Abuda also trains young civilians in parkour and breakdancing and spends most of his time outdoors practicing the sport he loves. Now, in Ivory Coast, an artist has turned discarded flip-flops from the beach into masterpieces. He carves the rubber soles to turn them into valuable portraits and abstract art. Details in this report.
As Aristide Kwame combed the beach, dragging the trash bag of waterlogged flip-flops, many thought of him as either a desperate trader or a madman. Little did they know that he would be converting them into stunning artworks as valuable as $1,000. His unique methods have garnered wide acclaim, and his art has hung in galleries throughout West Africa and parts of Europe.
When I go pick up the waste, there are a lot of questions, such as what will I do with all this? Will you sell the flip-flops? I simply respond that I'm an artist. And by picking up the waste, I'm removing this burden on nature. I'm removing something that disturbs the beach because I don't like to see it dirty.
Kwame's work range from large portraits of civil rights leaders to abstracts evoking societal ills, like climate change, COVID-19, and wealth inequality. All are made from old shoes that he finds floating in the ocean.
This work is about COVID-19 because that's what dominates the news these days. As an artist, I consider myself a witness of my time. That's why I produced this work, not only to show that this is a dangerous disease, but also to be an additional push in the fight against it.
Plastic waste can be found strewn across many of West Africa's urban beaches. According to the United Nations, around 13 million tons of plastic waste are dumped into the world's oceans each year.
Now, Asian stocks have retreated after U.S. Central Bank made no firm decision on when to unwind support measures for the economy. The lack of a directive from the Federal Reserve fueled worries over the pandemic's impact on consumer spending and jobs growth. Hang Seng in Hong Kong led the losses, while down nearly 2%. The Kospi in South Korea lost more than 1.5%. Tokyo's Nikkei 225 slipped over 8%. Mainland China's Shanghai Composite Index gave up almost 0.25%. Sydney's S&P ASX 200 declined nearly 0.5%. Now, Hezbollah says it has organized a shipment of fuel oil from Iran to Lebanon, which will sail within hours. Group's leader Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah says Hezbollah only seeks to help people and does not want to get into a challenge with anyone. In a televised speech, he warned the US and Israel the ship would be considered Lebanese territory as soon as it sails. He said there will be further such shipments to follow. Hezbollah previously announced plans to bring fuel from Iran as Lebanon struggles with crippling fuel crisis shortages. Now for the latest weather updates, we have Raja Sarosh with us.
Welcome to the weather update. We're going to have a look at the weather situation around the world, starting with Abu Dhabi, where weather is expected to be extremely hot, with temperatures rising to 40 degrees centigrade. While in Amsterdam, temperatures are at 21 degrees centigrade with a morning shower. If we're heading to Ankara, there is a clear weather with temperatures at 34 degrees centigrade. Moving down under to Auckland, the temperature is chilly at 15 degrees centigrade with thin layer of clouds covering the sky. Now, if you're traveling to Bangkok, there will be an expected thunderstorm with temperatures around 35 degrees centigrade. In Beijing, temperatures are at 28 degrees centigrade with a partly sunny weather. While in Beirut, you will experience sunny weather with temperatures at 32 degrees centigrade. Berlin will experience temperatures at 19 degrees centigrade under partly cloudy sky. If If you're heading to Cairo, sun will be out with temperatures at 36 degrees centigrade. Down under in Canberra, the temperatures are at 15 degrees centigrade with clouds floating in the sky. And in Islamabad, the temperatures are at 37 degrees centigrade, accompanied by partly sunny sky. While in Jakarta, you can see that the temperatures are steady at 32 degrees centigrade with partly cloudy sky in the forecast. That's all for now. Back to you.
Thank you, Sarosh, for the weather updates. Now, that is the end of this news bulletin. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.